resistance that we go through when we're trying to level up. And like in any video game, every level has a boss. Got to beat the boss to get to the next level. Life is going to throw us the boss. We have to defeat it. There is no just leveling up or thinking you're going to work on yourself without some sort of outside external resistance. Like maybe your car doesn't start. Do you freak out or do you get it jumped from a friend if it's just the battery? Do you start to solve problems as they come? Or do you succumb and then internally start to feel victimized, think the universe is picking on you, and then you get to the point where you give up? When you give up, you can go back to being comfortable. You can go back to being as it was. Go back to as life as you know it, which isn't good or bad, right? You can do that. That's your free will. Now, if you want to level up, obviously that's bad, right? So if you're here and you're still watching, obviously you want to level up. Obviously you want to accomplish something. You want to have goals that bring you there. You want to have more out of life, right? You want to experience new things. That's why I'm doing this. That's why I have been conquering the inner dragon. It's 2024. It's the year of the dragon. It's time to slay that thing, which is our inner monologue, or even dialogue, really, because you go back and forth and you're talking to yourself and you negotiate. And you say like, oh, do I really want this? Do I really not? You wake up early and like, oh man, but tomorrow sounds like a good day. I'm getting I don't feel like it, And that's where discipline comes in. You do it anyways. And then after like maybe 10 minutes of being disciplined and going through the motions, boom, back in the flow state, back to being motivated, back to feeling great again. So, hope you like my haircut. Did it myself. Anyways, the obstacles are there, right? So you could look at why you're doing what you're doing. You can see some of the greatest people on the planet that we think of when we talk about great people, like let's say Michael Jordan. Nobody really trained more than he did. The Vietnam vet that I used to play basketball with next door when I was a kid told me that when Michael Jordan quit playing basketball, he quit training so much. Obviously, these people create themselves out of imbalances. If you listen to like David Goggins' story, he got terribly abused as a kid and he decided he wasn't going to feel that way anymore. So he fought back. So you can assume that with Michael Jordan's failed relationship and being divorced, you can assume that just because he was the greatest basketball player doesn't mean he was developed internally. It doesn't mean he had that emotional resiliency. So when he is triggered in relationships, there's some sort of battle there. Now, maybe it wasn't him. Maybe it was his girl, his wife. But these people that accomplish great things that we look up to that seem like they're not human absolutely are. So once we feel that they're a lot of times just a big kid, they still have that hurt little kid inside them, and they're just walking around with their chest puffed out because they don't want anyone to see that little kid. And anytime it starts to pop up, they repress it and they push it back down, and they're like, no, that little kid's not there. I'm a big man, So you don't have to feel those feelings, but eventually they explode out like Old Faithful, and you get to the point where you can't have healthy anything other than the extremes you're going for that are really just coping skills to avoid dealing with what really needs to be dealt with. So you know what needs to be dealt with based on what you're triggered by, based on what makes those emotions start to rise up and you start to have jealousy and anger and resentment. And really, if you think about jealousy, these people you're jealous of are showing you what you should be working on so you can get on their level, so you can have what they're having. The resentments are basically people not living up to your expectations, and that is a whole problem in and of itself. Shouldn't have expectations about anybody or anything except yourself, because it's the only thing you have control over. So if you have expectations about the external world out there, you will be sadly and greatly punished for that, right? So why even bother having those? That doesn't mean you shouldn't have some sort of boundary on what you're willing to deal with. You don't want to just, as Bedros Keuilian says, you don't want to have a bunch of crop dusters around you when you want to be a fighter jet, So pay attention to that. But ultimately, you don't want to have expectations for people. So 2024, we're slaying the dragon. We're getting into the self-development. We're going to finally break these barriers that have kept us the same us for so long. The same you that wants to change every year, that's like, hey, I'm going to create these new goals. I'm going to finally conquer them. I got my New Year's resolutions. I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to eat better. I'm going to have relationships. I'm going to have better relationships anyways. I'm going to have more money. I'm going to do all these things. I'm going to build that business. But a few months in and it's like already kind of giving up, right? All that resistance in the beginning. And then it kind of makes you feel like the universe doesn't want you to have it. It's like, man, why is this thing picking on me? All I want to do is do good. I want to gain these skills so I can do better for other people. Why isn't it happening? Why am I not being allowed? You know, that's how I felt for so long. And it's not until now that I finally have like started to fall in love with myself more, because I never really loved myself. I always thought that if I was cocky enough, I could hide that I'm actually really hurting on the inside. So I always wanted to work out. I always wanted to be muscular. I wanted everyone to know that I was okay, because look at me, how could I not be, right? And man, it feels so good to finally be doing things that prove that I love myself, instead of just falling victim to, of course I love myself, why wouldn't I? You know? And that doesn't lead to anything other than misery and a whole life of hiding, you know? So you don't have to hide anymore. You don't have to pretend. You don't have to settle for what is. You can create change in your life. You can conquer the bosses. You can level up. You can beat the video game. If you look at life as a game, you start having fun and learn how to play it, you know? So let's do it together. Share this video with a friend that you want to level up with in 2024 so you can slay the dragons together. You're better off having some accountability. I'm here to help. You can always reach out and message me, but remember, it's up to you. So 2024 is the year we slay the dragon.